Blessed be the reading of your word, Heavenly Father. This is like what I would call a little appendix to Genesis chapter 22. And it's the Book of Jasher. It's the account of Genesis 22 of the book of, in the Book of Jasher, the account of Genesis 22 in the Book of Jasher, where Abraham takes Isaac up to the mountain to offer him up as a sacrifice. So I want to read some of the details of this account as it's written in the Book of Jasher. It really touched me, and I'd like to share it with whoever would be willing to listen. This is the Book of Jasher, chapter 22. I'm going to start at let's start at verse 11. I'm going to start at verse 11. The Book of Jasher, chapter 22, verse 11, and it reads, And Abraham planted a large grove in Beersheba, and he made to it 4 gates facing the 4 sides of the earth, and he planted a vineyard in it, so that if a traveler came to Abraham, he entered any gate which was in his road, and remained there, and ate and drank, and satisfied himself, and then departed. For the house of Abraham was always open to the sons of men that passed and repassed, who came daily to eat and drink in the house of Abraham. And any man who had hunger and came to Abraham's house, Abraham would give him bread that he might eat and drink and be satisfied. And anyone that came naked to his house, he would clothe with garments as he might choose. And he gave him silver and gold to make known to him Yahuwah, or the Lord, who created him in the earth. This did Abraham all his life. So, as I was been reading through the book of Genesis, when we've gotten to Abraham's account, I have been mentioning how hospitable Abraham was. It was in his heart to show hospitality to people who came by his house. He would have them a place to stay and they could eat and drink. He would take care of people that passed by. And what Abraham did when those people passed by, he would talk to them about his God. Hospitality was a key characteristic that the Most High put into Abraham and loved about Abraham. This is also why when you go to the Most High's house and you offer a sacrifice, He wants you to have something to eat before Him, have a meal with Him. This is the same thing that was in Abraham, the hospitality, right? So it reads here in the Book of Jasher that any man who had hunger came to Abraham's house, and Abraham would give him bread that he might eat and drink and be satisfied. And any man that came naked, Abraham would give him clothes to put on, and he would give him some money, a little bit of money. And to make known to him the Lord who had created him in the earth. This did Abraham. Even to this day, the Bedouins in the Holy Land, they'll have what you call a tent. And it would be for people who pass by who needed a place to sleep or to rest. They can just, if they're passing by, they can go in there and lay down and rest and sleep. I have personally been in one of these tents. It's like a little house. Some of them might be made out of metal, like a metal shed. Some of them may be actual tents. But the metal shed would be made up, decorated like a Bedouin tent inside, and they would have pillows on the ground. And I'll put a picture here of the tent, because that culture, sometimes they'll have chairs, but traditionally they would have pillows on the ground and with rugs, and you would sit down on the pillows and lay down a certain way. That's the culture. So let's continue. This is Jasher chapter 22, verse 14. And Abraham and his children and all belonging to him dwelt in Beersheba, and he pitched his tent as far as Hebron. And Abraham's brother Nahor and his father and all belonging to them dwelt in Haran, for they did not come with Abram into the land of Canaan. Okay, let's skip down to verse 40. Jasher, the book of Jasher, chapter 22, verse 40. And it reads, And Isaac, the son of Abraham, was growing up in those days. And Abraham his father taught him in the way of the Lord, to know the Lord, and the Lord was with him. And when Isaac was 37 years old, Ishmael his brother was going about with him in the tent. And Ishmael boasted of himself to Isaac, saying, I was 13 years old when the Lord spoke to my father to circumcise us. And I did according to the word of the Lord, which he spoke to my father. And I gave my soul unto the Lord, and I did not transgress his word, which he commanded my father. And Isaac answered Ishmael, saying, Why do you boast to me about this, about a little bit of your flesh which you did take from your body, concerning which the Lord commanded you? As the Lord lives, the Elohim of my father Abraham, if the Lord should say unto my father, Take now your son Isaac, and bring him up an offering before me, I would not refrain, but I would joyfully accede to it. And the Lord heard the word that Isaac spoke to Ishmael, and it seemed good in the sight of the Lord. And he thought to try Abraham in this matter. And the day arrived when the sons of Elohim came and placed themselves before the Lord. And Satan also came with the sons of God before the Lord. And the Lord said unto Satan, Whence come you, Satan? Answered the Lord. And he said, From going to and fro in the earth, and from walking up and down in it. And the Lord said to Satan, What is your word to me concerning all the children of the earth? And Satan answered the Lord and said, I have seen all the children of the earth who serve you and remember you when they require anything from you. And when you give them the thing that they require from you, they set it at their ease and forsake you and remember you no more. Have you seen Abraham, the son of Terach, who at first had no children? And he served you and erected altars to you wherever he came and brought up offerings upon them. And he proclaimed your name continually to all the children of the earth. See, when those people passed by, it's just been his character, Abraham, verse 51. And now that his son Isaac is born to him, he has forsaken you and has made a great feast for all the inhabitants of the land. And the Lord he has forgotten. So Satan is challenging the Most High about people who serve him in the earth, like this, similar to Job. Satan probably heard what Isaac said too. It's possible. I have no proof of that, but let's continue verse 52. Jasher chapter 22, verse 52. For amidst all that he has done, he brought you no offering, neither burnt offering nor peace offering, neither ox, lamb, nor goat of all that he killed on the day that his son was weaned. Even from the time of his son's birth till now, being 37 years, he built no altar before you, nor brought any offering to you, for he saw that you did give what he requested before you, and he therefore forsook you. And the Lord said to Satan, Have you thus considered my servant Abraham? For there is none like him upon the earth, a perfect and upright man before me, one that fears God and avoids evil. So remember when this was said about Noah being a perfect and upright man, and I was saying how being perfect didn't necessarily mean, it wasn't necessarily speaking about his genetic makeup, with Noah that is. So we see, I'll accept if it's the truth that that's indeed what it meant, that Noah's body was perfect. But like I said, based on the context, it makes more sense that he was perfect in the way that he lived and how he walked with God. He was righteous. So here now we see here, it says God is talking to Satan about Abraham. He says, there is none like him upon the earth, a perfect and an upright man before me. See, he was perfect before him. He was righteous before him. He was upright before him. May not have been talking necessarily about his genetic makeup there. Continuing on. As I live, where I too say, he says, let me go ahead and read verse 54 again. And the Lord said to Satan, Have you thus considered my servant Abraham? For there is none like him upon the earth, a perfect and an upright man before me, one that fears God and avoids evil. And I'm trying to avoid evil myself. As I live, were I to say unto him, Bring up Isaac your son before me, he would not withhold him from me. Much more, if I told him to bring up a burnt offering before me from his flock or herds. And Satan answered the Lord and said unto him, and said, Speak then now to Abraham, as you have said, and you will see whether he will not this day transgress and cast aside your words. There's a whole story behind why God would tell Abraham to bring Isaac up to the mountain and sacrifice Isaac in the first place. Because like we said in the scripture, it really don't make sense, because all we have in the Bible is that God told him to bring his son Isaac up and offer him for a burnt sacrifice. Well, in the background, what's happening, Satan and the Most High, Satan went with the with the sons of God, which were the angels. And, there was a time when they presented themselves. They all had to go present themselves before the Most High. Satan went with them. Same thing like in the book of Job. And Satan challenged the Most High, basically, and it's like, look, these people don't serve you. You give them what they want and they forget all about you. And the Most High was like, have you considered my servant Abraham? Nobody like him in the earth. Satan challenged him, like, since you've been dealing with Abraham since Isaac was born, he hadn't brought you no burnt offering and came to serve you with no meat offering or no offerings or nothing. He says here, God was like, if I told Abraham to bring his son Isaac up, he would, let alone if I asked him to bring a burnt offering. And Satan was like, cool, have him do it. So Satan, he trying to outsmart God and kill Isaac in the process, because Satan knows the covenant. He knows the promise that all the world would be blessed through Isaac. So Satan trying to kill Isaac. And this is a crafty way that he thought he would be able to do it, going to the Most High and bringing this up. And the Most High accepted the challenge. He's like, okay, I'm going to tell Abraham to bring Isaac up as a burnt offering. So this is the background information to what you have written in the Bible. So now you understand, after God promised Abraham that he was going to give him a son and his covenant was going to be through Isaac and that the world would be blessed through Isaac. This is why, now you understand why he would say, bring Isaac up and sacrifice him to me, kill him. Not to mention he's giving you a typology of what he's going to do with his only begotten son, Yeshua HaMashiach, Jesus Christ. So this is a typology. And a typology is the study and interpretation of types and symbols, right? So just like we're going to read, there's been types of symbols since the beginning pointing to Jesus Christ, Yeshua HaMashiach, just like the Passover lamb is a type and a symbol of Jesus Christ. It's a type or a symbol pointing to Christ. Moses actually is a type and a symbol. Aaron, because Moses stood between God and the Israelites. Moses spoke for God to the Israelites. The actual Aaron and the Levites were a typology of Christ. Joshua in the book of, not Joshua, but Joseph in Egypt, saving the people. He's a type of Christ. He's a typology. So not only is Christ, I believe, literally in the book of Genesis, but there's so many types and symbols that represent Jesus Christ that are found in the book of Genesis. So let's continue here. So we have here in the book of Jasher where Isaac is a type of Christ. He's being presented as a typology, as a type of sacrifice, right? And Satan is bringing this up to destroy Isaac, to kill Isaac. And in the end, with Christ, God, in fact, is going to allow Satan to have Christ killed to bring about eternal life and salvation. The Most High in his supreme wisdom and strategic genius use death to bring about life. So much little stuff here, but I'm just going to continue with the book of Jasher. Satan is calling himself tricking God to get Isaac killed. This is actually what's happening. So then I'm going to continue into chapter 23 of the book of Jasher. Now remember, what we're doing is we're giving you more information of the book of Genesis, chapter 22 of book of Genesis. I'm giving you the background information. We just learned why the Most High told Abraham to offer up Isaac in the first place, because Satan was involved. There was something going on in the background that we don't know about in the Bible, in the Holy Bible. King James is what I tend to use. So, but you have to get into the extra biblical accounts in the book of Jasher. Specifically talks about what was happening in the background triggered the Most High. I don't want to use the word triggered, but what caused the Most High to tell Abraham to offer up his son Isaac. He called Isaac his only son. Another type typology of Christ. So it's just so much stuff in here. So now I'm going to continue with the book of Jasher. I'm going to go into the book of Jasher chapter 23 to give you more detail of what took place as they went to sacrifice Isaac. Okay. So this is Jasher chapter 23, and it says, verse 1, at that time, the word of the Lord, and the word of the Lord, it just so happens in this book, the word is capitalized, and Lord is too. So to me, it's a good chance that's a being, because we already know that some being was visiting Abraham, right? But don't want to go too far down that road. So follow me here. At that time, the word of the Lord came to Abraham, and he said unto him, and he said, so the word of the Lord came to Abraham, and he said unto him. That reads to me like the word of the Lord. There is a being, that's a person showing up, but I digress. Let me keep going. And he said, and Abraham said, here I am. And he said to him, take now your son, your beloved son, whom you love, even Isaac, and go to the land of Moriah, and offer him there for a burnt offering upon one of the mountains which shall be shown to you. For there will you see a cloud and the glory of the Lord. And Abraham said within himself, how shall I separate my son Isaac from Sarah his mother, in order to bring him up for a burnt offering before the Lord? And Abraham came into the tent, and he sat before Sarah his woman, and he spoke these words to her. My son Isaac is grown up, and he has not for some time studied the service of his God. Now tomorrow I will go and bring him to Shem and to Eber his son, and there he will learn the ways of the Lord. For they will teach him to know the Lord, as well as to know that when he prays continually before the Lord, he will answer him. Therefore, there he will know the way of serving the Lord our God. So he's going to take him to Shem, and this was back in the day. This was called the house of Shem, and the house of Shem was like a school. It was like where people went to study, and there was a time, like I believe it was Rachel, no, it was Rebecca, Isaac's wife, when she was pregnant with Esau and Jacob, and she was having problems with the pregnancy, right? And she went to inquire of the Lord, like what was going on. She went to see Shem. She went to the house of Shem, and Shem was the one connected, knew the ways of the Most High, and they could go there, and the Most High would communicate. They could get information from the Most High through Shem. And Shem in the Bible, when we talk about Melchizedek, there's information that says that person in the Bible at that time was Shem, the king of Salem and a priest of the Most High God. Just like Jesus Christ is of the order of Melchizedek. But let's stay focused here. Let's continue. Verse 6. And Sarah said, you have spoken well, my Lord. So Sarah, this is how he's getting Isaac away from Sarah. Because remember, this is Sarah's only child, and Sarah's heart is bound with Isaac. So Sarah took her son Isaac. So Abraham is taking him. They leaving. They getting ready to go. And Sarah took her son Isaac, and he abode all that night with her, and she kissed him and embraced him and gave him instructions till morning. And she said to him, O my son, how can my soul separate itself from you? And she still kissed him and embraced him, and she gave Abraham instructions concerning him. And Sarah said to Abraham, O my Lord, I pray you take heed of your son, and place your eyes over him, for I have no other son nor daughter but him. O forsake him not. If he be hungry, give him bread. And if he be thirsty, give him water to drink. Do not let him go on foot, neither let him sit in the sun. Neither let him go by himself in the road. So Sarah is giving these motherly instructions to Abraham. In verse 13, Sarah wept bitterly the whole night on account of Isaac, and she gave him instructions till morning. And in the morning Sarah selected a very fine and beautiful garment, from whose garments which she had in the house that Abimelech had given her. And she dressed Isaac her son therewith. This was cloth, basically. It wasn't a dress. Well, I mean, men didn't wear women's clothes and vice versa, but it was a garment, you know what I mean? And they could wear it a certain way. Verse 15. And she dressed Isaac her son therewith, and she put a turban upon his head, and she enclosed a precious stone in the top of the turban, and she gave them provision for the road, and they went forth. You remember Haji? What was Haji? There was a cartoon kid's name, the Indian, they say they try to make him out, and I guess he was like an Indian kid. His name was Haji. It was a little white dude and his dad. It was a cartoon. I'm trying to bring you to remembrance of the turban wrapped on his head with the stone in it. People don't know that was part of our culture, showing us blacks, but we didn't know. What was that cartoon? It was like a spy. They were like agents and stuff, and they would be flying in planes. I want to say it was a dog in there. It's a cartoon. The little cat's name was Haji, turban with the stone. Anyway, and it goes on, and Isaac went with his father Abraham. That verse 15, finishing it up. And Isaac went with his father Abraham, and some of their servants accompanied them to see them off the road. And Sarah went out with them, and she accompanied them upon the road to see them off. Okay. And they said to her, return to the tent. And when Sarah heard the words of her son Isaac, she wept bitterly. She was crying. And Abraham, her man, wept with her, and their son wept with them, a great weeping. They all crying. This is a very trying time. Also, those who went with them wept greatly. Everybody's crying. They just crying, because clearly a change is something's getting ready to happen. But none of them know what's going on with the Most High and God in the background, right? But Abraham is just being obedient. He trusting the Most High. He's doing what he said, even though he know that this is the son of promise. But he's executing his instructions, and everybody's sad and crying. And Sarah caught hold of her son Isaac, and she held him in her arms, and she embraced him and continued to weep with him. And Sarah said, who knows if after this day I shall ever see you again? And unfortunately, they wouldn't, because Sarah would die before Isaac would see her again for heartbreak. Oh, it's terrible, man. Oh, this is terrible. Verse 19, and they still wept together. Abraham, Sarah, and Isaac, and all those that accompanied them on the road wept with them. And Sarah afterward turned away from her son, weeping bitterly, and all her men servants and maid servants returned with her to the tent. So she went back crying. Poor thing. This is tough. Verse 20, and Abraham went with Isaac his son to bring him up as an offering before the Lord, as he had commanded him. And Abraham took 2 of his young men with him, Ishmael the son of Hagar, and Eleazar his servant, and they went together with them. And while they were walking in the road, the young men spoke these words to themselves. Okay, so in the scripture, I think it says that two servants went with him. So one of the servants was actually Ishmael, and the other one was Eleazar. This is who went with them, right? And Ishmael said to Eleazar, so they walking, talking to each other, right? And Ishmael said to Eleazar, now my father Abraham is going with Isaac to bring him up for a burnt offering to the Lord, as he commanded him. Now when he returns, he will give unto me all that he possesses to inherit after him, for I am his firstborn. And Eleazar answered Ishmael and said, surely Abraham did cast you away with your mother, and swear that you should not inherit anything of all he possesses. And to whom will he give all that he has with all his treasures, but unto me his servant, who has been faithful in his house, who has served him night and day, and has done all that he desired me? To me will he bequeath at his death all that he possesses. So they competing, just talking talking trash to each other about who gonna get Abraham's property when he kills Isaac. And he goes on, verse 25. And while Abraham was proceeding with his son Isaac along the road, Satan came and appeared to Abraham in the figure of a very aged man, humble and of a contrite spirit. And he approached Abraham and said unto him, are you silly or brutish that you go to do this thing this day to your child, your beloved son? So Peep game now. Look at what's happening. Satan shows up and he done shape-shifted. And he looks like a very old man, and he's humble and of a contrite spirit, lowly. The whole time this is the adversary in the flesh, deceiving Abraham. Verse 26, for Elohim, listen to what Satan says. Peep out how he came though. He ain't come with big red, muscular, with big old huge horns or a dragon. He didn't come like that. This is the most evilest being that exists. Look at how he's described. An old aged man, humble of a contrite spirit. Verse 26. For Elohim gave you a son in your latter days, in your old age. And will you go and slaughter him this day because he committed no violence? And will you cause the soul of your child to perish from the earth? Do you not know and understand that this thing cannot be from the Lord? For the Lord cannot do unto man such evil upon earth to say to him, go slaughter your child. And Abraham heard this and knew that it was the word of Satan, who endeavored to draw him aside from the way of the Lord. But Abraham would not hearken unto the voice of Satan, and Abraham rebuked him so that he went away. See, Abraham had that discernment. He knew the voice. Like truth has a sound, just like lies have a sound. Boy, I be having people lying in front of my face, and I be knowing it. I just let them lie, giving them over to the Most High. Truth has a sound, which means so does lies, because a lie don't sound like a truth. I believe truth and lies have frequencies, particular frequencies. And when you tapped in with the Most High, you can hear it. Abraham was aware. He knew it was Satan. He rebuked him, and Satan had to flee. Resist the devil, and he shall flee. Verse 29, Satan returned and came to Isaac. And he appeared to Isaac in the figure of a young man, comely and well favored. And he approached Isaac and said unto him, do you not know and understand your old silly father brings you to slaughter you this day for nothing? Now therefore, my son, do not listen nor attend to him, for he is a silly old man. Let not your precious soul and beautiful figure be lost from the earth. And Isaac heard this. See how he came to Isaac? See, he's shape-shifted, and he's coming in a way to appeal to you. Peep game. And Isaac heard this and said unto Abraham, have you heard, my father, that which this man has spoken? Even thus has he spoken. And Abraham answered his son Isaac and said to him, take heed of him, and do not listen to his words, nor attend to him, for he is Satan, endeavoring to draw us aside this day from the commandments of God. And Abraham still rebuked Satan, and Satan went from them. And he, seeing he could not prevail over them, he hid himself from them, and he went and passed before them in the road. Check out what he does. Listen. And he transformed himself into a large brook of water in the road. See, he's a shapeshifter. Look at what he did. He shifted himself into a river, a brook, in the road. And Abraham and Isaac and his two young men reached that place, and they saw a large brook, and powerful as the mighty waters. And they entered into the brook and passed through it. And the waters at first reached their legs, and they went deeper in the brook, and the waters reached up to their necks. And they were all terrified on account of the water. And while they were going over the brook, Abraham recognized the place. So Abraham realized, wait a minute, I've been here before. And he knew that there was no water there before. And Abraham said unto his son Isaac, I know this place in which there was no brook nor water. Now therefore it is this Satan who does all this to us, to draw us aside this day from the commands of God. And Abraham rebuked him and said unto him, the Lord rebuke you, O Satan. Be gone from us, for we go by the commands of God. And Satan was terrified at the voice of Abraham, and he went away from them. And the place again became dry land as it was at first. And Abraham went with Isaac toward the place that Elohim had told him. And on the third day, Abraham lifted up his eyes and saw the place at a distance which Elohim had told him of. Satan was terrified at the voice of Abraham. Look, he said, Abraham rebuked him. I'm going back to verse 38 because I just don't want to jump over this part. Abraham rebuked him and said unto him, the Lord rebuke you, O Satan. Be gone from us, for we go by the commands of God. Whatever was in Abraham's voice terrified, and he left. So verse 40, Abraham went with Isaac toward the place that Elohim had told him. And on the third day, Abraham lifted up his eyes and saw the place at a distance which God had told him. And a pillar of fire appeared to him that reached from the earth to the heaven, and a cloud of glory upon the mountain. And the glory of the Lord was seen in the cloud. And Abraham said unto Isaac, my son, do you see in that mountain which we perceive at a distance that which I see upon it? So he asked him, do you see on that mountain up there what I see? And Isaac, verse 44, and Isaac answered and said unto his father, I see, and lo, a pillar of fire and a cloud, and the glory of the Lord is seen upon the cloud. And Abraham knew that his son Isaac was accepted before the Lord for a burnt offering. And Abraham said unto Eleazar and unto Ishmael his son, do you also see that which we see upon the mountain, which is at a distance? And they answered and said, we see nothing more than the like other mountains of the earth. And Abraham knew that they were not accepted before the Lord to go with them. And Abraham said to them, abide ye here with the ass, while I and Isaac my son will go to yonder mount and worship before the Lord, and then return to you. So in the Bible, you just see that Abraham told those two servants to just chill where they were at, and him and Isaac was going to go to the mountain. We don't have this information that Abraham saw a pillar of fire on the mountain and the glory of the Lord in this cloud. And so did Isaac see. They both saw it. Isaac and Abraham saw it. We don't have this information in the book of Genesis. It's in Jasher. But Eleazar and Ishmael, the two servants that was with him, they didn't see it. So they weren't accepted. So I had this similar, I didn't see a pillar of fire, but I definitely saw a cloud. So the story goes, I'm in the Holy Land. I'm in Israel. And we go to this place where it looks like the temple used to stand. It's up on this mountain, and the mountain is plateaus. It goes on for like 3 or 4 football fields. And when you get up there, you can see in the ground, there's these circular pillars that were in the ground, and they were like cut off. It was like cut off right at the ground level. And if you didn't, you had to be right up on top of them to see them, that they were there. It brings me to mind when the scripture said that the enemies of God's people, when they saw the land being taken over and destroyed, they was like, raise it, like cut it down to the ground. It's like, it looks like that's literally what happened to these pillars. They cut it down, and so from a distance you could see this mountain plateau, and you could see that it's flattened off somewhat, and where a building could be up there. And we could see it, we was driving to it, and, they pointed it out to me, and I'm looking, so we at a distance, so we see it looks like a mountaintop, like a big hill, I guess, that's flattened. So we're about, I would say we was about a mile, couple of miles away at most. So I'm looking at it from a distance, and I could see the sky, and I could see the hill, and I could see, it looks flat. And I was like, yeah, it looks like something could be built up there. And the guy that was showing me the place was like, yeah, I'm going to show you. We get up there, you'll see. And so when we got up there, we got out the car parked. We had to walk for a distance and got to the top of this place. But like I said, at the top, it was flat. Several, like 3 or 4 football fields up there. At least 2 football fields, maybe 3. As we walked around, we was, like I said, as we was approaching in the car, there was nothing. We just looking at it. There's 3 of us in the car. Me, this guy, and this third party guy, this other black dude. And we got up to the top of that, and nothing out of the ordinary, in the sky. You see I'm the type of guy I tend to look up a lot anyway. But I didn't see nothing, as we approached this hill or mountain. We got out, we parked, and we walked up, got up on it, and as we looking down, he's showing me these pillars that were raised off, and I could see them. We go a certain amount of steps, and there'd be another one. A certain amount of steps, and there's another one. I'm like, what is, he was saying that this is where the temple once was. And I can't say that for sure, but it was clear that something was there that, and then we could find certain types of precious stones, crumbled up on the ground, citrine, jasper, just broken up just laying on the ground. I mean, like just laying there. Like, you could literally pick it up if you know what it is. Some of the other stones that we recognized, and we was able, because, you know, some guys there that worked in precious stones that was there with us, jasper, sapphire, just laying on the ground, like broken up in chunks, like literally. You know, I definitely picked some up, you know, and as we're looking, you know, checking out the evidence, clearly archaeological evidence on the ground, and I'm peeping it out like I'm trying to puzzle this together. Like, yeah, for sure, something, some building, some structure was here, and it was pretty big. The guy that was with me, for some reason, he got real quiet, you know, and I was observing these pillars that was cut off in the ground. At ground level, some kind of way my attention was drawn back to him, and he was literally shaking in his boots. I mean, I hadn't, you know, like literally he was shaking, and the look on his face, you know, and I looked at him, I said, yo, man, I said, you all right? You know, I mean, because I'm like, dude, like, he was clearly scared, shook. Something had him shook. I mean, and he was rattling. Almost like in the cartoons when they teeth, you know, like when they scared. And I was like, man, you okay? And his eyes just went up toward the sky, straight over us. He didn't tell me to look, but when he did that, I looked up, and man, I seen this cloud. And it was a cloud there, and it was in a circle, and you have to see it to know it. And I was like, man, what is that? I was like, clouds don't do that. I was like, I was like, hold on. You know, I started looking, and the third dude was standing there, and he was like, what? And he's looking up, and the guy I was with said, you don't see that? Talking to the third dude. He was like, see what? I was like, and then I looked at him. I said, you don't see that cloud? He was like, what cloud? I was like, and we just looked at each other like, he don't see that? You know what I mean? This actually happened to me over in the land. But that guy did not see it. He didn't see it. We saw it. Me and him both started describing what we saw, but the third guy, he didn't see it. But this dude over here shaking in his boots, I didn't peep that out at first, that he was shaking in his boots. When I saw it, I wasn't scared. I was startled. I was like surprised. Like, what is this? Like, what is that? Like, clouds don't do that. That's how that went. I liken that experience to this, you know, like me and this other dude, we saw it, but this third dude, he didn't see it. It's just like this right here with Abraham and Isaac. I mean, to me, it ain't exactly the same, I know, but it happened. So moving on. I don't want to say, I don't know if that meant me and that other dude was accepted or not. I don't know what any of that meant. All I know is that it happened. You know, it was real, and I saw it. So let's get back into the Book of Jasher, chapter 23 here. Abraham, you know, tells the two servants to chill, and him and Isaac start heading toward this mountain where they see this pillar of fire and this cloud. And it says, verse 49, and Abraham took wood for a burnt offering and placed it upon his son Isaac, and he took the fire and the knife, and they both went to that place. And when they were going along, Isaac said unto his father, behold, I see here the fire and wood, and where then is the lamb that is to be burnt, to be the burnt offering before the Lord? And Abraham answered his son Isaac, the Lord has made choice of you, my son, to be a perfect offering instead of the lamb. So Abraham just told him that it was going to be him. And Isaac said unto his father, I will do all that the Lord spoke to you with joy and cheerfulness of heart. And Abraham again said unto Isaac his son, is there in your heart any thought or counsel concerning this thing which is not proper? Tell me, my son, I pray you, O my son, conceal it not from me. And Isaac answered his father Abraham and said unto him, O my father, as the Lord lives, and as your soul lives, there is nothing in my heart to cause me to deviate either to the right or to the left from the word that he has spoken unto you. Neither limb nor muscle has moved or stirred at this, nor is there in my heart any thought or evil counsel concerning this. But I am of joyful and cheerful heart in this matter, and I say, blessed is the Lord who hath this day chosen me to be a burnt offering before him. Lord have mercy. Hallelujah. And Abraham greatly rejoiced at the words of Isaac, and they went on and came together to that place that the Lord had spoken of. And Abraham approached to build the altar in that place. And Abraham was weeping. He's crying. And Isaac took stones and mortar until they had finished building the altar. And Abraham took the wood and placed it in order upon the altar which he had built. And he took his son Isaac and bound him in order to place him upon the wood which was upon the altar to slay him for a burnt offering before the Lord. And Isaac, listen to this, and Isaac said to his father, listen, bind me securely and then place me upon the altar lest I should turn and move and break loose from the force of the knife upon my flesh, and thereby profane the burnt offering. And Abraham did so. And Isaac still said to his father, O my father, when you shall have slain me and burnt me for an offering, take with you that which shall remain of my ashes to bring them to Sarah my mother, and say to her, this is the sweet smelling savor of Isaac, but do not tell her this if she should sit near a well or upon any high place, lest she should cast her soul after me and die. And Abraham heard the words of Isaac, and he lifted up his voice and wept when Isaac spoke these words. And Abraham's tears gushed down upon Isaac his son, and Isaac wept bitterly. And he said to his father, hasten you, O my father, and do with me the will of the Lord our God, as he had commanded. And the hearts of Abraham and Isaac rejoiced at this thing which the Lord had commanded them. But the eye wept bitterly while the heart rejoiced. The eye wept bitterly while the heart rejoiced. And Abraham bound his son Isaac and placed him on the altar upon the wood. And Isaac stretched forth his neck upon the altar before his father. And Abraham stretched forth his hand to take the knife to slay his son as a burnt offering before the Lord. At that time the angels of mercy came before the Lord and spoke to him concerning Isaac, saying, O Lord, you are a merciful and compassionate king over all that you have created in heaven and in earth, and you support them all. Give therefore ransom and redemption instead of your servant Isaac, and pity and have compassion upon Abraham and Isaac his son, who are this day performing your command. So the angels was watching this whole time, and they went before the Most High on the behalf of our forefathers. It's like, Father, please don't allow this to happen. Verse 68. Have you seen, O Lord, how Isaac the son of Abraham your servant is bound down to the slaughter like an animal? Now therefore let your pity be roused for them, O Lord. At that time the Lord appeared to Abraham and called to him from heaven and said unto him, lay not your hand upon the lad, neither do anything unto him. For now I know that you fear God in performing this act, and in not withholding your son, your beloved child, from me. And Abraham lifted up his eyes and saw, and behold, a ram was caught in a thicket by the horns. That was Abraham, man. Like, whew. Let me see. Let me get through this. Abraham lifted up his eyes and saw, and behold, a ram was caught in a thicket by his horns. That was the ram which the Lord God had created in the earth in the day that he made the earth and heaven. This wasn't no ordinary ram that the Most High provided. Remember, he said he will provide himself a lamb. It wasn't no ordinary. He took the first one he made, the best of them all. He gave his best. But he said, for the Lord had prepared this ram from that day to be a burnt offering instead of Isaac. He knew the ending from the beginning, from the very beginning when he created this lamb, this ram. He knew he was going to offer it up for Isaac when he created it. Verse 72. And this ram was advancing to Abraham when Satan caught hold of him and entangled his horns in the thicket. that he might not advance to Abraham in order that Abraham might slay his son. So Satan the whole time trying to do whatever he can. And Abraham, seeing the ram advancing to him and Satan withholding him, fetched him and brought him before the altar, and he loosed his son Isaac from his binding. He put the ram in his stead, and Abraham killed the ram upon the altar and brought it up as an offering in the place of his son Isaac. And Abraham sprinkled some of the blood of the ram upon the altar, and he exclaimed and said, This is in the place of my son, and may this be considered this day as the blood of my son before the Lord. So the blood of his son. You see, this is a typology, like I was saying, the blood of Christ, and we've got the blood of his son Isaac. Verse 75. And all that Abraham did on this occasion by the altar, he would exclaim and say, This is in the room of my son, or in the place of my son. And may it this day be considered before the Lord in the place of my son. And Abraham finished the whole of the service by the altar, and the service was accepted before the Lord, and was accounted as if it had been Isaac. And the Lord blessed Abraham and his seed on that day. And Satan went to Sarah, and he appeared to her in the figure of an old man, very humble and meek. And Abraham was yet engaged in the burnt offering before the Lord. So Satan, he trying to get somebody killed. He couldn't get Abraham and Isaac, so he went before Sarah. Basically, he told Sarah that Isaac was killed. And from the grief and the heartache from that experience, that's how Sarah died. And Isaac didn't get to see his mother again. It's terrible. But this is just some of the details that's in the Book of Jasher. Because, Sarah dies behind Satan going to deceive. I don't want to get into too much of this because this could get very long. But I wanted to just add a little context and detail to Genesis chapter 22. And this is some of the background information I just wanted to share with y'all. Maybe at the death of Sarah, maybe I'll come back here and read how she died.